See one deer. Hold on. Come here, I'll show you. See him? Don't go, friend. Probably for the best, huh? We're on Bateman Island, which is a little, pardon the award-winning camera work there to get us started. I'm trying to maybe find a place to see the sun setting. We've walked a little ways, maybe half a mile counterclockwise around this island, but there's our friend. There he goes. You want to see him? She's starting to get nervous, of course. Getting close to nightfall, and I can feel her little heart racing. Of course, we're coming to you from the Tri-Cities area of Kennewick, Richland, and Pasco in Washington State, a little south of Spokane, near the Idaho border. But here's our little deer. She's starting to get nervous about fireworks. Of course, now we're actually hearing fireworks. We had been hearing, obviously, the usual noise of car mufflers and what's up, guys? Choppers, and by chopper I mean just loud motorcycles. Maybe that's not the technical term, but her Luna's concerns are being validated because fireworks are starting to pop in the distance. It's July 2nd, and we're here in Kennewick because the wallet that I lost, that came up missing while we were in Glacier, turned out somebody found it. She lives in Kennewick. We knew we would not be in Montana, probably not Idaho, which was the hope for July, and definitely not East Washington State or Oregon. I can tell you about Oregon from experience because we've been there once before. I think that was in August. Now, mind you, that was a pretty good time, but you know it gets hot in the desert, and this is definitely desert, high desert. I don't know about where we're at exactly right now, but at any rate, we're here because we knew we would be making the trip west, most likely to the West Coast, Olympic National Park, I think Nea Bay, if I'm saying it right, which I don't even know that there's anything there. I just picked it on the map because it was the farthest north and the farthest west that I could find in the contiguous US. So, wherever we end up, it's not going to be this hot. And this is about 8:30. I think sunset's about 8:50. It's still about 85 degrees and feels pretty humid. So I checked out the humidity. I think it's at 26% or something like that. But it feels humid. I feel like I'm walking through humidity, kind of like what we're used to in Houston and the South in general. However, I did check Houston's weather just now, and they're like 80% humidity. I don't know how I did that for so long. Not even as a kid. I don't know. My tolerance is I've probably gotten a lot weaker. I'm just hanging out with this deer. I hope that's all right. I enjoy when they're comfortable. As a matter of fact, I was just thinking earlier today, it's like, all right, well, this heat's not going to do it for me. Which, by the way, let me just close that sub line up, or what do you call it? that part of the story up. It was 101 yesterday, I think 102 maybe, but the screen capture that I got from the weather app said 101. That's hot. And mind you, the humidity is pretty mild compared to what we're used to. But that's still hot. 100 degrees is 100 degrees. And it's funny because kind of the whole, I think subtext is the word I was thinking of. The whole subtext of what we're doing right now is just avoiding hot weather, uncomfortable weather. You know, she'd probably rather be warm than cold. But even for her, it's like once it gets to a certain temperature, you're just kind of like laying in the grass and breathing with your mouth open, trying to stay cool. So it doesn't do anything for us. Plus the fact that we're in a vehicle primarily. This is all really nice back here. I feel like we could walk through here, Luna, and get to the water. Maybe we'll walk a little bit more. So this is actually her walk, if you can believe it. And now she's being carried because we've heard some fireworks and she's not about that life. So we're here in Kennewick. It's hot. As much as we try to avoid the heat, especially now that we're getting good at it, you know, kind of knowing where to be, what time of year, so that we're not suffering on the cold end or the hot end, especially since we're basically transient. I wouldn't go so far as to say homeless. If you mailed something, I'm probably going to get it, but I don't really feel like I necessarily hang my hat anywhere specifically these days. So now that we're getting better at sorting out the weather patterns and kind of planning our route accordingly, it's funny to land smack dab in the middle of 3-digit summer weather. The irony being that, of course, it's a blessing that we can be here. It's something of a serendipitous turn of events that my wallet turned up at all. I knew it was missing. This is back in Glacier, so probably 2 weeks ago, I think. And I have a feeling I know when it happened. I definitely know where it happened. But I'm pretty good about holding on to stuff. I'll be a lot better about it now, of course, but I've gotten used to like just stopping and checking myself throughout the day. Do you know where your keys are? Do you know where your wallet is? Because my brain, I'll lose the plot easy sometimes, especially if I'm preoccupied with something else. Which, believe it or not, and maybe this is a bit of irony too, happens a lot more now that I'm sober, which has only been a handful of years now. But it does, I don't know, there's a lot more valves open when I'm sober and clear-headed. And I'm talking about booze for me, but even if you know, Puff the Magic Dragon or something like that, I feel like I think a little more sharp, a little more, what is it, like a singular focus on something. I could be wrong about that. That's just the way I feel about like just walking around raw dogging life, scatterbrained. So I think I know where my wallet was. At any rate, somebody found it. And so since we were headed this way, we had the opportunity to swing through. And since I knew I would be coming through this way, I had my sister mail something to me to this city, you know, to be picked up at a drop point, at a pickup point. I think we used UPS this time, but I've done FedEx before. I know you can do it through USPS. Hey, baby, stop doing that. So, here's a little Here's a little tidbit that I was chewing on yesterday. She doesn't know what fireworks are. She really hasn't been around fireworks. Obviously they're around, they're in the distance. We've been closer and further, depending on where we're at and when. And I know the dogs don't like them. Generally, dogs don't like them. Some dogs aren't bothered by them. Here we're looking out over Columbia River. And I believe that's going to be, well, Richland is somewhere in our focus right now. I'm not sure if these buildings specifically are Richland, but we're looking toward Richland and Sunset, of course. But we'll be going along perfectly normal, perfectly content, having a very normal day. And she will hear a fireworks sound, one fireworks sound. Now she's very reliant on me, so she's making it hard, a firm case for me to carry her, because I suppose that's how she feels the safest. And again, pardon the camera work, but I'm juggling here. But she doesn't want to be, she wants to feel as safe as possible. Okay, so great. She can come to me for that, and I'm glad we have that, that relationship, and that I'm available and whatever. But regardless of me being any sort of safety for her to cling to, the firework is the thing. And it doesn't have to be a firework. It can be a backfiring, like I said, loud mufflers, which are so cool. Sometimes, somebody drops some equipment. I can't think of anything off the top of my head, but we've been around places where it's like somebody just drops something, makes a loud bang or a loud boom. And when it coincides with sunset, she has it, at least the way I understand it, she has it in her head that maybe there's going to be fireworks tonight. And she doesn't like fireworks, but going back to my original point, she has no reason to fear them other than the fact that she doesn't know what they are. They jar her nervous system, and she never knows when to expect them. So it's kind of like it's a triggering event. And I'm watching her yesterday as we're driving to Columbia Park, which runs along the river here, and along Kennewick, the city of Kennewick, opposite the shore of Pasco. But we're driving through. It's our first time in that park. It's about this time of day, so we're hoping to get a good mile-long walk or something in. And she's happy and looking forward to it. We've been inside all day. We've been sitting in a bookstore for a couple of hours. I was writing some postcards and, just doing stuff just to stay out of the outdoors, just stay out of the sun, stay out of the heat. So this is our opportunity to walk while there's still daylight. And sure enough, somebody just does a really big firework, like a firework, like not a firecracker, like a big bomb thing, just as we're driving by. So that's it. That's all it was for her. It was no more happy, no more anything. We got out and we walked a little bit later in the night, but it just kind of confirms that fear for her whenever she anticipates it, and then it happens, and it happens when she thought it was going to happen. So it's kind of a reinforced sort of trigger. Well, not a whole lot we can do about that. I had thought about maybe just more exposure, some treats, maybe it'll just, but I don't know. She's 6, almost 7. I don't know that it's necessary or worth the effort. I don't know that there's anything to do like that should be done. Maybe she just doesn't like fireworks, and it's my job to try to keep her in a firework-free environment. Even when we were in Key West, they didn't do fireworks, but they did the little cannons off those boats at sunset. So every night. In fact, I saw a van the other day as we were walking around somewhere as it was turning into nighttime, and she was already a little nervous, and I don't know that there were any fireworks around, but all the loud engines and everything like that. This might have been in Missoula, Montana. And I saw a van that reminded me of a van she jumped in during like a farmer's market type of thing, arts and crafts market type of thing in Roosevelt Park in Key West. And she was already ready to go back to the truck because she knows the cannon's going to happen. And it's sunset. And we're walking, but I'm not in her hurry. So she's a little bit ahead of me. And sure enough, she heard that little cannon fire and jumped into somebody's van. She's holding on to me with her tail, which is pretty funny. I can feel it, but like she's wrapping it around my arm pretty tight. Anyway, the point of any of this right now is just to say it last night's event with the firework going off, and then she didn't want to come out. She didn't want to walk around. Her ears were down and back the whole time, so she was in a very protective and cautious state physiologically, not comfortable, not having fun. And it really made me think about triggering as it relates to humans, how you can be in an environment or something happen and it triggers like a certain physiological response from you, and all of a sudden you're derailed through no fault of your own, just conditioning. And you can work on those things. You can mitigate some of them. You can work to expand your capacity, so on and so forth. That's all true and should be considered. But just the fact that you can be triggered like that at all, I think we think of it as a sort of like a lack of strength, a lack of capacity. And yeah, maybe once you're conscious and aware of it, you've got some education around it. You've had some time to familiarize yourself, not only with maybe some vocabulary that helps you define it, but also some tools and tactics that can help you mitigate some of the effects. I think just the simple fact that a human being can be walking along and something just flip a switch in them deserves some respect, because we might think of it as a sort of weakness of sorts. Maybe I'm using the wrong word. But the fact of the matter is that whatever event or events led to that trigger being put in place, that's the real culprit. It's not a matter of being weak or not strong or anything like that. But if you if you put triggers in place in a young person, it's just like instilling them with a language or religious values or a political bent or anything like that. They're going to really have to work to do anything beyond that. They're going to have some real, come into Jesus moments, so to speak, to say, no, I think I'm doing all this because this is just what was, the default setting that was given to me. But in reality, I can think of some better ways to shape my worldview. So anyway, that's just something I thought about because she was very adamant about me picking her up, which I'm happy to do. And we don't have to, and I don't hear any fireworks now. But that's another thing. As her guardian, protector, human, what have you, caretaker, it's also my responsibility to validate those fears. Yeah, all right, maybe I know that there's nothing that she really needs to worry about, and we do our best to stay away from fireworks and just chaotic noises in general. I mean, like, we were in New York last August and Boston the September after that, and we were riding the subways, the trains, both of those places. Those are big, badass, scary things, especially if you're a dog and you're not familiar with them, and she wasn't. We've probably been on a light rail somewhere. We had been in Kansas City up and down their little line that they have through the heart of downtown, just to do it for that very reason, just to have some exposure for her. Can't think of anywhere else we might have done it, but we've also been on buses and things of that nature. But those trains in New York, by the time we had spent our month there, well, not even the month, but at some point she realized, like, hey, when we're done walking, that's going to be our ride back to wherever we were staying. And so she would lead the way down the stairs, and she's quite comfortable being on the platform. I wouldn't say close to the tracks, not that she needed to be or anything like that, but she had no problem with that big, fast, loud train roaring into a station. I'm sure she didn't like it, but the context of that noise was that was our ticket home. That's the way we got to places, and that's the way we got back to base camp, so to speak. Whereas with the fireworks, it's like they're always in the distance. They're percussive, like they disrupt the air around them, and that shockwave just travels to wherever you're at. Of course, dogs' sensitivity in some of these senses, smell, hearing, things of that nature, they're a lot more sensitive than we are. So, not knowing what it's for, not knowing why it's so loud and violent, and not having the buffer that maybe we have as humans, or the deadened senses that we have as humans for some of those noises. It's a genuine threat. And as the caretaker, it's your responsibility to say, yeah, no, you're right. That is scary. And let's get out of here. Let's do something else. I know a couple July 4ths ago, last July 4th, we were in Milwaukee, and we're like, all right, well, we're going to get out of the city. And I forget the name of the community that we went to, but it was, west of Milwaukee a ways. Well, that wound up being where the fireworks were. So we were just there for them. I think I left her in the truck, turned on some music so that volume kind of deadened the sound. But the point is, we tried to get away from the fireworks, and there was no getting away from them. Like, we just ended up right where they were. Guess we could have driven out further into the country or something, but everyone's popping fireworks. And the year before that, we were in Buffalo, and I guess they had just made it legal to pop fireworks in the city. So everyone's popping fireworks well before July 4th. Like, we were there for July. Hey, I'm going to sit you down, okay? 1, 2. All right. We were there before the 4th of July, but then I'm thinking, all right, 4th of July, we'll go out to Niagara Falls, which is, 30 miles, 30 minutes, something like that, outside of Buffalo. I'm thinking we'll go out there. We'll just enjoy the falls. We'll enjoy sunset. Well, lo and behold, they do fireworks there.